You've got a destiny, somebody you're supposed to be. Far from this small town, there's answers waiting to be found. So she lies awake, thinking there's been some mistake. Crying her eyes out, begging for help. She's shouting, I want a new brain, I want a new heart. I'm sick of feeling, failing and falling apart.
Rise in mind.
Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome. Rise in Mind. You've got CP Sketch here of Dreamers Arcade.
Good morning.
He's within the Dreamers Arcade. He is the Dreamers Arcade. He represents the very essence of dreaming and arcades.
I know I'm in the dream ethereal light over here. Welcome to the morning here.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow.
I want to get up on this mic a little bit. Hey, everybody.
Hey, 1, 2, check. Check,
So
1,
what's
2.
on the agenda with the rise in mind, my friend?
What's the last thing you can remember?
That the screen froze or I paused it.
That's called immediate recollective memory. What's the furthest thing you can remember?
Oh, holy shit. I just went to a whole new channel. I'm doing good. Recollective thinking. And now I can hear my voice. And now I'm thinking of, I don't know, I'm thinking I woke up this morning and I did some writing.
Sorry,
That's recollective.
I misspoke. That is working memory. What you just did.
Okay.
Working memory.
Okay.
Most scientists believe that there are 4 types of memory. Working memory, sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory.
Okay.
You know what?
So,
You know what though, CP?
what?
I'm convinced you can't trust any of them.
So what we got? We got short, long.
We got working, sensory, short, and long.
Then, okay.
I look back at some of my long-term memories. I can't trust a damn thing because it was trauma and anxiety that defined those memories. I probably had a fucking awesome childhood, but you know what, as far as my brain's concerned, it was the worst.
I probably had a terrible childhood. That's interesting, but how can you be conflicted?
Well, that's the thing is I only remember bad things. I only remember the times when I was in danger so that I don't end up in danger again. It's a very natural thing for our brain to do.
Has anybody
Good morning.
comparatively said otherwise? Good morning, Storm of Iron.
Good morning, Agent Giggles as well.
Oh, hey.
Hello,
Hey,
hello,
Did
everybody.
anyone ever tell you different? Is that why you're having a bit of a conflict? Like,
Well,
oh no, you must have had a nice life.
No, the thing is there's a very specific memory that brought up this subject. I was talking to my mother about
Shout out, moms.
a very specific time where I said it was the chop suey incident. So like I hate chop suey. I've never liked American chop suey.
Come on, man.
And it's because of one particular memory I have where I ate chop suey and ended up like puking all over the carpet as a little kid. Right? I was a little kid and I was like, oh, this is gross. I don't like it. My mom said, you will eat it all. And she forced me to eat it.
Off the carpet?
No, that's why I ended up. No, she forced me to eat it after I said I didn't want to and I didn't like it and it didn't smell good and all this stuff, right? So that's how I remember the memory, right? Her forcing me to eat it. How it actually went, as per my mom, because her memory is fractured on it too. What she said is, I refused to eat it. I ate a little bit, and the meat had actually gone bad. She said all of us got sick that day, and you just and you've like I was like, did I form a traumatic experience from being sick that day? And my brain said, well, your mom was abusing you, and she didn't actually. Like what? Like
I
my
have a
brain was
hy-
like convinced that I was like being forced to eat this rancid meat, and I just was hungry and ate it and got sick, and everybody got sick, and my brain was so traumatized by getting sick in that moment that it formed this memory of someone had to be to blame.
I have a possibility, and I might rework your whole memory system now. That's the danger of me
Do it
saying
up.
anything.
Alrighty, well this is that's we're gonna let's rework some memory systems here. Let's break ground.
Breaking ground.
You fixate or are attentive to certain things in a way that's detailed, with ADHD pathway, right? Gravitate. You'd say that, right? That's
Yeah.
fair to say. So so having that behavior, and it's great for a lot of things, and it's great for making artwork and detailed work and things that work in unusual orders, like drawing or printmaking or digital art. In your case, like that's perfect for that mind. But now, imagine you are, I don't know how old you are. What are you, like 10 years
I'm
old?
well in just for appearance's sake, I say I'm 34. I'm actually like 682 years old, but can't
All
always
right. Well,
tell people that.
we'll get fucked up on that later. I thought 420 was over, but he's coming in hot with some Moses age shit. He's reworked the calendar,
Welcome in
apparently.
District B13 says, "Ah, the Flip Crew. Good morning, guys.
District
What are we
B13.
talking
That's
about?
I love that district.
Look, we are
Parkour.
my guy. We are talking about the fragility of human memory and how it will generate abstractions to fill in gaps because the brain doesn't like not knowing."
Yeah. So, and I'm trying to rework this dude's brain. Check it out. So you were like what, 10 years old eating the
Yeah,
chop suey with the bad meat? Well,
yeah.
guess what? You're just a fucking kid, and and people are older than you, and they're eating the stuff. And hey, man, I don't know how times are for people, and I know I ate a lot of chop suey with venison and stuff, and it could have been from the struggle bus days, and people didn't have as much at points, and so it could have been like, hey, man, this is what we have, and then all of a sudden, little you is like, it's all rotten and shit, it's gross, because you were like, you figured it out. You're a little kid, and you figured it out, and surely the adults must figure it out too, right?
Us
So now
no.
so now you're caught into a thing where it's like, this isn't good. Just eat your dinner, but you know it's not good, and now you have to eat the dinner. And you're like, why don't they believe that it's not good? It's not good, and then clearly, after the fact, you were right, and it came it came to realization that you had the right answer. And so I think that could be like a memory of yours. Why don't my parents believe in me?
Yeah, that's something that actually now you're touching on something that shaped my childhood. So, like this is why the memory got fractured, and you're exactly right. That's exactly how memories get fractured is you have a defined sort of like what is the main theme of my entire childhood, right?
Yeah.
And for me it was I was usually believed in. So every time I wasn't became like a very poignant moment.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
The things I find in that case, yeah, I would fight in a similar way. Like, why don't the adults understand that this is going to happen and question that? And that's probably like very difficult from the point of view of an adult to be
Yeah.
challenged with something that might be even like heavy, like how are we going to deal with this situation now? It's like, oh yeah, I'm the person who's supposed to come up with the answers. I'm supposed to be the hero. So I could see how that's tough. I didn't have kids, but I do feel responsibility at points in my life for other people, and to not be there is a big letdown, I would imagine. But
Right.
yeah, so that's gonna like reframe the way you look at that, and then so I'd be like, oh, why don't they listen to me? But then on the other side of it, like you just said, when they listen to me, it was like my dad called me the wizard, and was he was a guy who could rewire a house, and that's a lot harder than plugging in a VCR and screwing in a coaxial cable and hooking up an Atari or something, using a couple adapters. And he's like, "How'd you figure this out? Like you're the wizard. I could always fix it." And I got that title, but it made me bond more with the VCR and the technology and the movies and the fact that my parents would watch movies with me. The fact that I couldn't get my parents to play games with me made me realize that that was something separate for me, even though it seemed like the same thing, like media wise. But
Yeah.
because they were from a different generation, movies and TV became more valuable because I saw them as ways that mom and dad will connect with me. And it got to a point where I started to know more information, so that I became the source.
Yeah.
And then now they ask for my opinion. um it's it's weird. So I understand that 100%, like that, how you could be oversensitive when it's like you're not listening to me, and then it's like, oh, when you do listen to me, gives me a big chance to perform.
Yeah. What did you say 30 seconds ago?
So what that's like the ADHD like question fucking
No, we're still talking about
trick
memory. We're still talking about
trick of the
memory.
trick.
I'm not
What
trying
did I
to
say?
trick. I'm not trying to trick your ADHD. I'm just sort of bringing up sort of an interesting thing about short-term memory.
What is
It's not it. What happened 30? So the brain does this thing, right?
You
What
asked me what
happened?
happened 30 seconds
It's
ago.
not. It's not important.
There.
The
I
brain
waited and
didn't
I manipulated the time to win.
look.
See?
The brain doesn't need what happened 30 seconds ago. It needs to remember that chop suey equals bad, so that I don't do that to myself again.
What if chop suey meant survival, man?
Yeah, but well, at the time it did, but because we had to eat it. Well, like we could like roll over that particular memory until the end of time, but there's another one that's pretty great that I think we could also play with. My
Figure it
dad,
out.
my
Oh,
dad
sorry.
had my dad and I had a very similar jacket, right? And it was a denim. It had a denim vest, but then it had a regular fabric sleeve. It was like one of those like letter jackets, but without a letter. But it was denim instead of a color. And I loved it. It was my favorite jacket ever. And for the better part of my 20s, I was looking for this jacket. I was like, is it in the garage? Did we put it in a box? Did we put it in somewhere in like or here? It was my dad's jacket. It wasn't mine. I thought it was mine. My dad just always gave it to me to wear when I
You
was
thought there were
cold.
two?
I thought it was mine. Like my brain had attached a ownership to this thing, and I thought that it was somewhere in the house. And it wasn't until my dad passed away that when we were going through his things, we found the jacket. I'm like, oh, this was dad's jacket. This wasn't mine. Like I loved this jacket, but I didn't love it because I had associated a love ownership with this thing because of the care that my dad showed when I was little and would put it on me. And here I thought that in my teens it had been just mine in my teens. Like
So you
fractured memory is fascinating because the brain will fill in the gaps. It's like like love plus jacket plus must have been yours. I mean equals must have been yours, and then that means that you should find that jacket because you love that jacket.
connection between physical objects and memories are a real trippy concept.
It's
Like it wasn't the
fascinating.
physical jacket, it's the idea of the hug of it's like a hug. It's like a thing. It's a feeling too.
It may feel like we are deep diving. I noticed some stuff in the chat about we're already in it. I'm like, no, hold on. we are still in just breaking ground. This isn't even the big like, oh my god thing about this, right?
This is easy.
We're
Scratching the
almost
surface.
we're almost there though, which is the
Okay.
funny thing is we're so close to it. So I asked you what did you say 30 seconds ago? So the brain actually has a really great way of being efficient when it comes to the information that enters it, right? You do remember what happened 30 seconds ago. And even people with ADHD do store this information. But people with ADHD actually store it better than most people. Neurotypical people will actually get distracted by their memories. ADHD people will only get distracted by memories and fixations that we are actually getting serotonin from. So we only will remember things that we actually love, that we actually care about, that we actually want to. Whereas the brain will get clouded by a lot of different memories.
Is that why we remember the bad shit too on top of it?
I mean, that's actually that might be an ADHD thing, but we do need to like both you and I have this. So like as this like in the context of this podcast, I do want to say that some things are just human and suck. Like I could equate all of my human traits to ADHD, but like at the end of the day, sometimes it just like it's kind of awful. You know, the human brain isn't the most efficient thing in the world, and maybe it's just a bad human trait.
Yeah. Yeah, I lean into
Oh,
archetypes and
Agent
things
Giggles.
like that for that kind of grounding sometimes.
Agent Giggles brought up something I actually do want to touch on. So the digital age actually is like a prosthetic for people with ADHD. A calculator was the best thing I could ever have in math class. They let me have it. It saved my goddamn life. And then when it comes to computers and having a resource, when I'm hyperfixated on something, I can get rid of that hyperfixation much faster now. I don't have to walk down to the library. You know, I don't have to like spend an entire day researching in books to like you know satisfy hyperfixation. The new AIs coming out, for instance, I actually do feel like I had a limb that was missing, and now I have that limb back. Some of the AI actually does feel like that because like I can't. There are times when my thoughts will not sort themselves, right?
Yeah.
And that's a common misconception as well that it's just about distractions. It's an executive function failure essentially. Like your brain knows what it has to do, it knows how to do it, or you know how to do it, right? But there's literally it's like scraping your feet against sandpaper as you walk towards the goal.
Yeah.
Like for
I
some
picture-
reason it just does not like the gear, there's something stuck in the gears, right? It's not necessarily about distractions.
I'm picturing that you just went on like Steam and you bought this game called All My Dreams Come True. And then you're like, I'm gonna fucking load this thing up. I've got a powerful computer to run it all. I've got everything. But then for some reason that comes up and it's like error execute, could not find pathway. And it's like that's
Yep.
oh man, I've got the computer. I've got the fucking oh man, it just feels like something disconnects.
It actually makes
sucks.
sense that we're talking about this in a conversation about memory, because what the next thing I want to bring up is what working memory is. So we just discussed our short-term memory, which is our fight or flight memory. And then we have
the animal
yeah.
brain.
Then we have our like your brain remembered the last 30 seconds, but it chose not to store the information for sake of there is so much information coming from the room you're in. There's so much information coming from even the sounds in that room.
Yeah, dude.
That your brain will not allow you to it does if we actually could experience all the sensory input that we take in, we would go insane. Our brain protects us from that.
There.
And that's why it seems like short-term memory is in a lot of people, even people without ADHD, short-term memory is a problem. So, but working memory is, as you just discussed, pathing. The brain, like picture it like a grassy field, and people are walking through that field. Your neurons communicating are people walking through that field, and over time the grass gets tamped down. creating new paths through that field is way more difficult than just walking the path that everyone else has already tamped down.
Yeah.
And that's essentially how working memory functions.
Two roads diverge in a yellow wood.
So that's why when you can't teach an old dog new tricks, it's not you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's that an old dog will want to only do the tricks it's already learned. It's not necessarily that you can't teach him. It's that you're gonna always follow your habitual paths.
Throw a frisbee every day, over
catching...
to the left, right? The dog will just go that way. But then, like, if you throw it to the right one day, it'll just run left, but it'll be like, oh, wait, it's fucking over there now, right? That kind of idea.
I keep speaking in absolutes today, and I realize I need to catch myself on that more. So
did you?
Yeah,
have you been drinking absolute vodka?
Look, I always speak in absolutes. See that's an absolute.
That's how absolutes fucking work, brother.
I'm gonna tangent a little bit here. Side thought, guys. Absolutes kind of suck. Like, and they're necessary for us to have a conversation. But I really actually very much dislike when people are always this and never that, and this always happens, and you keep doing that. That's a common absolute when someone says you keep doing that. It's like, actually, sometimes I'm in a different state.
Sometimes I'm
especially
in mania.
especially when speaking of in scientific terms, like I do like to avoid absolutes. So some people's pathing is different. Like for ADHD, our paths are it's very easy for us to tamp down that grass in the field. It's very hard for us to create new paths. Like once we have a bad habit, it's much easier for us to continue the bad habit.
You know that.
We follow the path of least resistance to the serotonin. And then once we know that path to the serotonin, we're like, well, that's all I want. So why would I make another path anywhere else?
Yeah. Like I play with that idea, and even in the theme of our mining here, with underground, you're digging through all these paths. You start with your main vein, and that's usually what people work and diverge from. And then, like Viking was saying, it just digs down, and if you just naturally walk, it'll create a path. And it is easy. It's hard to jump and be like, now I have to go back to the rough terrain and smooth that out. No way, man. I could slide nice and smooth down this path, even though I know it's going to lead me where I was yesterday, and I'd rather kind of branch off to this other path. But this is, like you said, it's easy. It's the easier path, and when you're struggling with dopamine, like it's hard to be like, I'm gonna break through the walls, and then they prescribe you like Adderall and stuff, and a lot of people will say, it's an amphetamine, and I've ripped down walls in my house, like that's the path of least resistance. You get into it, and it's like being real with yourself and doing stuff you never would.
That's when the mind.
Now what the fuck do I do?
That's when the foreman of the mine says, break out the TNT, we're doing some blasting.
Pretty much, dude. And, I was talking to a friend just the other day on a walk, and she's like, yeah, my mom and I both got diagnosed, and they gave us Adderall. We sledgehammered a wall down. Dad had to rebuild it. I was like, okay. So it is very motivating when first on it. So be mindful. You might
sledgehammered? Wait, did they sledgehammer the wrong wall? Is that why he had to rebuild it?
I don't know. They were probably inspired, like, we'll make this motherfucker an open concept because that's how you do it. Like, I can work and utilize all this space. But maybe it was a load-bearing wall, and then the old man came by and was like, hey, we gotta put that wall back up because that's like holding structure. And nope. You can't take that one down. So that's what I imagined happened. Don't take down the load-bearing wall, even if it's a new pathway. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I see that. I can't worry about that. V, I can't worry about that right now. We're in the middle of a podcast, but thank you. And I was actually going to play later today, so that actually works out well. I'm part of a major project here with V. Just so those of you who are in the chat can be clued in. It's a massive undertaking on the game Space Engineers. We're talking like planetary scale military operations in a game. Like this is like we have to worry about orbits and airspace. We have to worry about other players stealing our stuff. We have to set up like defense lines and find ways for the bases to watch themselves while we can't be online. You know, like it's pretty intense. More on that later today. I might stream it depending on if I can, but we'll see. So
that's a big maybe probably from the Viking.
Well, that's because of the
out on the flip.
It's because of the nature of the project. Like we can't broadcast everything we're doing.
Oh yeah, because you get stream sniped.
Well, that's a worry. That's a major worry.
Those shit heels right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So before V chimed in with that, CP, can you get me back on track?
Can I get you back on track? We got the timer going, and we're in the. This is the one that counting down. We've only started, and we're going to be moving into right now. We've broken ground. We're talking about memory, impermanence of memory, and we're going to break down into dig some new pathways and try to figure out where we're headed from here with how memory works. We've talked about working sensory, short, and long.
CP, how do you remember to put up a stud wall?
16 on center traditionally is the layout of the 2x4s, and then there's like I don't even know all the terms because I'm ADHD and I'm trying to realize I should have read the rule book before I became a carpenter. But yeah, a lot of it's just sticking wood on wood and wood to wood, and then 2 woods here, and then cut hole, 2 woods above door, 2 woods, double up here. And I just know that structural template that is standardized, that is what we're supposed to do. In a garage, maybe you could do 22 on center, but we also have a thing called Google. So like keeping up with code and what's going on. You could talk to your code enforcement officer, or you can just be like, Google shit. And, yeah, there you go. Does that sound like a professional carpenter? I don't know. But I have a start,
Yeah.
So what is that?
That's called semantic memory.
Yeah.
Actually, no, sorry, I had that wrong.
That's like definitions.
That is that's still working memory. Like the example they have here is baking something, which requires a person to recall the ingredients they already added. So you can recall how to build a stud wall, even if you're having a bad ADHD day, even if you're having a bad, a rough morning. Like you can have like, forget your coffee, forget your breakfast, go into work, and your brain is still like stud wall, got it. Which is fascinating to me. Like we have a fractured memory of that time when we were a kid and that thing happened, but stud wall, instant.
Space Viking, watch this. Look at me. I might be delayed. I close my eyes. I put on my sunglasses. I go over here. I grab my coffee.
Right. How'd you remember how to grab coffee?
Look, I'm clicking a pen. Can I put it back on the little coffee charger? Look, my eyes are still closed. Dude, how did I do all that stuff? How did I move things around a physical space without actually seeing them?
You have like that's baked in. Those paths were from the moment you were in existence. Your brain was creating those paths of like, how do I grab a thing? How do I put something on my face? What even is my face?
It trips me out, that intuition to just instinctually like grab, and like especially at work, you were talking about building a wall, to be grabbing something behind you that you can't see, and all of a sudden I have a utility knife in my hand because I know it was relatively over here, and my hand's already going for it. Some people call this the ADHD walk, where 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 you start to your body's going before your mind's already
Well,
there, and it's like starting to contort itself and shift
I
itself
don't know if that's like
around things.
limited to ADHD, but there definitely is a you become more aware of your body, and suddenly you want to like move it around more. And
Yeah,
I
that might be just eating edibles. I don't know.
maybe the thing that gets me about
Pizza. We got a Pizza Hut commercial. We've been done fucking in by pizza. I'm
ah
sorry. I know I must always do the pizza, bring the pizza, and this looks pretty good. And I am actually having pizza tonight. But this Pizza Hut bullshit did not need to get into an Alienware with Assassin's Creed. I don't need this bullshit either. I'm promoting it
look,
now
man.
for me, I guess.
So let me know when the ad's done.
That's why I was talking over the whole fucking thing. Okay, now we're back. We just had two shitty ads. I'm sorry. I like to do the pizza. Didn't mean to drop a Pizza Hut ad
Look,
on you. Don't fuck with that shit. Hang with us,
now
man.
that our viewers are hungry,
Yes.
um,
Sorry,
your
the system's manipulated your mind.
your path creation when you are a baby, those are like nearly hardwired. Like you can in theory rewrite
X, what's
those
up? Ba, ba, ba,
paths.
ba, 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 ba.
Every path that you've created in your brain to create a habit, to create how you do things, can be rewritten. And this is actually one of my favorite things to do in life, is to find things like that I've always done a certain way and go, I'm gonna try doing it a different way today.
Yeah, it's like switch hands. Like when you draw, go the other hand sometimes.
Yeah, for me, the biggest test of this is like my posture when I'm driving. Like I always get in my car this certain way. I sit down and I start driving, and my posture always changes. Like I get tensed up. I'm like, why am I tensing up? Oh, because I'm driving and it's dangerous. What if I just chill and like let my feet unclench and let my shoulders unclench and just like let's try to just this is something that I did years and years and years ago before I started doing conventions. And I'm glad I changed the way that driving felt in my mind in that way, because now it's like relaxing. I love driving. I've always loved driving, but now like I really love it.
Um, I just want to say something that's interesting about that with like driving and body language. I always kind of pretend like I vibe a lot with the day and music, and I'm very narrative and performative, and sometimes I feel like I'm just character or so I can feel like I'm a little bit edgy today, or I'm in a chill mood today, and then I just go with it at the best of my ability. But my father, I work with him, and when we do jobs, when he's really nervous, you should see this guy when he drives. I'm gonna show you. He turns to the side, right? This is the old man's driving, but he'll do this thing. He's got the wheel. He's kind of smaller, so he'll like lean up, like up on the wheel, like pull himself up. He's like tense, and then he starts taking his hat. And he's like, and he starts fidgeting with his hat and like leaning up into the wheel and over. And I always know it's like, oh, this is the start of a day. You can just see it like in the body language. But and then one time my buddy did an impersonation of him. It was so cool because he's just a guy. People don't pay attention to shit, And this is a guy who just called me not too long ago, and he's like, "Man, I don't know. I'm going through some shit, and fucking, I don't know if people are genuine anymore." And he was vibing on some like real deep shit, and I could relate. But he was doing this impersonation. He's like, "Yeah," and he just starts like squinting his eyes and moving the hat around when he's talking. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and it became so obvious in that impersonation, just that little bit of body language, how a person will express themselves in the way that they stand, in the way that they move. And for someone who's like nervous and tense, they might fidget around, and you'll find them like touching like the back of their neck or being a certain way. But in that particular instance, I just want to bring it up because it's
Yeah,
funny.
more.
He was always, so that you're talking about like how you altered that posture and how you felt a
Yeah.
certain way. You took a real cool vibe and reclaimed it back. That's nice to hear.
The that posture change actually did help in on a car accident that I had a couple years
Ooh.
after I realized this. So, like when you are like drunk drivers often won't get the driver themselves won't get injured, but sometimes they'll kill their passengers. And this happens a lot. You realize why this happens? Because
Because
they're
the well, a lot of it they say is the person who's driving is so fucked. They're like their vibe is they're
yeah.
loose with it, and they're in a situation where if they hit something or they pass out, they kind of fallen asleep for a second, and then the other person could be like more alert, and then they tense up, and it's dark. But yeah, it's the body language is I think what you might be getting at.
Yeah. So that's exactly it. So if you're loose and say you have a sudden jerking motion, your muscles and your brain and your bones have a much higher chance of not getting injured.
Yeah.
So when I went off the road and hit the snowbank, I did jerk forward and the car was totaled from this. This was a no, it wasn't a snowbank, it was a guardrail. The the guardrail was fucked and my car was totaled and I should have had something whiplash or I don't know. Nothing came of it. Like weeks passed and I had no injuries at all. And I was
Wow.
like, why is that? And I thought, well, maybe it was so like this all started when I got back when this is how long this has been since I had this realization. This was like a um nearly post high school. It was around the same time I started studying Buddhism, and it was like about being in control. A lot of it's about being in control of your own emotions and your own desires, and staying relaxed and like understanding the actual awareness of your immediate space of where you are. And from doing that training, maybe that's what came of it. Maybe I don't know.
Hmm.
I can't say for sure. I haven't talked to like a an expert in Buddhism, and I haven't talked to an expert in physical therapy to be sure of like that's actually what happened. But I have heard the story about drunk drivers surviving more often than their occupants, and I'm wondering if there's a relation to being just loose and like calm in a car
Yeah,
accident.
I think that's accurate because even if we don't like consider like meditation and how popular meditation not only is like forms of spiritual practice like Buddhism, but just as a culture in our exercise, mental health, the idea of breathing. There's a lot of things we were talking about, like grounding in your space, grounding exercises, getting the mind and the body in kind of a working or separate, understanding the relationship between the two. And I think culturally, it's kind of cool. You know, we grew up in a world of everything, the world where everything accumulated, but it was a little bit of everything made those practices, I think, part of our culture. And whether it's in a workout or I remember in the 90s, aging myself a little bit, doing Billy Blanks's Taibo. You know, it's like Tai Chi mixed with dance, mixed with like Kung Fu.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
cool.
it's like everything, and it was all cool at the time, you know. And Billy Blanks did it. He still does it on YouTube with his family. He's an intense guy, and he was, you know, a karate master, and he had like spots, you know, in movies like Kickboxer and whatnot. So to see this dude be like he's badass, but he's also spiritual, and he had a duality to him that I found appealing at that point in my life. But not to go on a Billy Blank's Taibo tangent. Around that time, I was experiencing a lot of stuff that was like that. And then I started seeing skateboarding and watching, you know, people like Tony Hawk and the X Games and seeing the CKY guys and even Jackass stunts happening. You realize, like, how are these guys like Shaolin monks? How are they like taking massive hits to the body? How are they so indestructible? This can't be real. And then you start to find out they're skateboarders, they're stuntmen, they're circus clowns, they're people who are they've all been trained individually in taking falls over and over again. So when they fall off a roof or whatever, do something crazy, that's like they just broke their neck. No, that's Bam Margera, and he's been rolling off skateboards since he was a child. Like,
Yep.
and getting back into the ADHD thing, that might be part of like what those people needed for dopamine rush, and then connecting with some indirectly with an Eastern spiritual practice like Buddhism. Like, who knew that the Dalai Lama, in a way, rides a skateboard here in America? He's taught us some of the looseness of things we can do with our body, but that came from age old history. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating, guy. Hey, we're gonna move into the next segment, and you wanna get a coffee refill and take a quick 2-minute break, and maybe
Yeah, if you need a break.
yeah, I just wanna go to the bathroom right in the middle here, and
I could do a coffee refill as well. Alrighty, everybody, we shall return shortly. It's going to be just a quick respite.
yes.
Appreciate you all, guys. Tune in, stick around for the deep dive. CP, where have you gone? He's still gone. Alrighty, guys, we are back to Rise in Mind. We're just waiting on CP to come back now.
Come back in.
Here he is.
Come back in. Oh fuck, my coffee. Hold
Oh
on.
shit! Oh fuck! Don't forget the coffee. I've disarmed the cat. You guys can't see it. If you just press your palm into their forehead, they tend to just shut off. He's now eating my hand.
Okay.
Not actually shut off completely. Ow!
Get these cans on.
Don't bite me.
Oh, Inky. Hey, okay.
Inky's
back.
nibbling on my hand. So,
the
you know how
turns.
when cats get uppity with you and they're just like play fighting, you can like take your index finger and your middle finger and just press into their forehead and then pull their like loose skin on their forehead back, and then they'll just be like, what? It'll shut off their head. You know,
I know how to shut off a cat's brain.
as we are going into the deep dive.
Let us go into the deep dive.
I pressed the wrong button, guys. Hold on. Deep dive. Okay, there we go. We're in the deep dive.
You were there before.
We're doing
going
it.
deeper.
We're going deeper. Do you know anybody with Alzheimer's, CP?
Well, okay. I do.
Yeah. I told you we're going deeper.
Okay, so I have an aunt that I wasn't very close with, but she's fine. But her and I think her husband have gone into assisted living because they just don't have the short term. And I work for a couple. They are two of the greatest people ever. They're in their 80s, and the father of this man now, who's, of course, his father's long since deceased. At 82 years old, he passed, and he had Alzheimer's, and he said his dad didn't remember anything, and so he references that a lot because he's now a man who's, I believe, 83. He's outlived his father, but both he and his wife exhibit memory loss. I've known them for over 30 years. They're like family, my like grandparents, wonderful people, and it's a pleasure to work for them, but it's also challenging because they remember me for my whole life, but if they say they ran into my mother, they wouldn't make that connection. They'd know my father. He worked there too. So there's always going to be, well, I mean, I imagine the long-term connection. In a lot of their stories that they recycle and tell me, I'm fine to hear them over and over again because it's a memory of theirs and I could take it and their memory and dream gets to live on. What they do remember and what is valuable to them and what they're expressing, those things that they've held on to that they do repeat are like a mantra, you know, like a meditation, a prayer. And I take amazing value in people who are losing their short-term memory because these people, I've been married, to date myself even more, like I've been together with my spouse for nearly 20 years. And 15 years ago, we were married, and this woman that I work for played piano at the wedding. But she doesn't remember that I married a lot. So it was within 20 years. But if you go post 2000, and they remember all this stuff from when they first got together, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and I came in the 90s. So I'm there every day. I write them notes. I do things to help them, but to keep them on that track. But there is a long-term memory that is staying there. And just bringing up Alzheimer's, dude, I think as someone who likes to dream and knowing the beautiful mind that this man has, for him to lose that sense of himself, I haven't seen that. His love for arts and poetry and just listening to me speak about a tree, he still has that in himself. And I hope he never loses that part of himself. Like, I don't care that you don't remember my wedding. I get it. But I just hope you don't lose your whole self, your ability to love and dream and feel joy, because they were the ones who taught me that. But then, hey, do they ever lose it? If I keep it going, there's my legacy responsibility as the ADHD artist. What does it all mean? How deep does that go? But yeah, do you know anyone with Alzheimer's? Like,
I don't. I know a couple people in my field where they had like the early signs of it, but they had never been diagnosed.
there's
And these
dementia
were
as well.
yeah,
There's different variations that are less
dementia. The reason I bring it up is that a lot of this stuff that makes us a conscious being, right, is very dependent on chemical balances within this ball of meat in our skull, right? Like who we are and what we remember and what we care about is very dependent on that. And in the case of dementia and Alzheimer's, it's a severe malfunctioning of that chemical device that is your brain. That's part of why memory can even get fractured. That's part of why memory you can't really trust your own mind. Is like that's what I've heard Alzheimer's described as, is you start to lose trust in your own mind and your own self. Like even if you're not that far into Alzheimer's, you start to exhibit much more apparent symptoms because you start to lose trust. It's not that like your memory is completely gone, it's that you've now stopped in bringing up things you remember to friends and family because you no longer trust it. And then like
That's
after
kind of like mental illness too, right? You know, like the idea of not knowing if your feelings are accurate or not when thinking about a situation or a person.
I used to have this I actually wanted this to be a tagline for our podcast here, never skip brain day. Because it is something you do need to exercise, and I don't know if exercising your brain will prevent Alzheimer's, but I'm going to try. Like,
Thankfully, medical science, because just what this man says about my father had Alzheimer's and he was this at this point, and the fact that he's not this now, and I can see this, is a good example of where we've come, because he obviously has the same chemistry and a lot of the same predisposed likelihood being a family member
Yeah.
of his father, but like knowing what it is, defining it, and then being able to treat it. I'm glad to see that we've we've figured out ways to slow it down, and hopefully we can space that out way beyond a person's life, whether it's doing brain day. You know, my grandmother always did puzzles and played games.
Today is brain day.
My grandmother was 93 and she was pretty like together, and she drank like
Did she do so? Like, I actually got to the point of this article too, is improving memory.
Yeah,
It's doing brain teasers and challenging puzzles.
she did all that shit. My mom does too.
Those of you in the chat that are interested, there's actually there's an app that I've been using that has expanded the usage of my brain. It's like school forces you. They forces you to try to memorize stuff, and it forces you to try and like activate your brain for 8 hours a day. And there's people on both sides of how that can be dangerous for a child. But like when you're an adult, man, I need the intellectual stimulation. So what I am, and we're not sponsored by the way. This is an app that I actually use and I love it. It's called Elevate, and
I could probably get a sponsorship if Elevate reach out. This guy likes it. Get me one too.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's some redneck shit. Oh, what the fuck are these guys
He's looking out
doing?
his window, seeing some redneck stuff.
You guys
What's going
hear
on?
that shit? There was two young boys like racing mowers, like having like bumper cars, and dude locked it up in front of him and was twerking. It was like twerking with the back of a mower. I had to stop for that. That was some redneck shit. This
That's
neighborhood
funny.
is going the Dreamers Arcade.
If you guys are
redneck
interested
shit.
in this app, I'm gonna throw a link here for it.
Yeah,
This
he
has
wants
some
full
amazing.
sponsorship.
These are some amazing memory challenges. They have eloquence challenges where they teach you how to talk good, and then there's some challenges where they teach you the difference between like different types of language. They teach you percentages and other math, like basics of math, like actually usable math is what they teach you. They don't teach you some of that. They don't teach you that bullshit that you're never gonna use. It's great if like I'm having a foggy day, like a brain fog day. I'll just go on this app and I'll do a quick 5-minute challenge, and that brain fog will like lift, which is
Cool.
it's brilliant. It's like once you just need to remind your brain that you can do stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I used to play Brain Age for the Nintendo DS. It was like when people were starting to have that kind of awareness that mind games help.
Oh, it's very similar to that. Actually,
Yeah.
those same kinds of games.
And it was cool because like it probably has the same kind of swiping and touch screen that back then the stylus was relatively new and the touch screen was a pretty like cutting edge thing. So like I could see how that would translate more and more. Storm of Iron, don't get your brain fog.
Yeah, so like I've heard different names for it, so maybe you don't get brain fog at all, because that sounds like just like exactly as you described it. That's fascinating to me to hear that someone who doesn't get brain fog, because for me it's more like I have an intense desire to do all the things and my brain's just like, nah man. And I'm like, but the stuff, it's right there. Like I'm staring at the groceries that need to be put away in the fridge, and my brain's like, nah. But I got it.
I told Abso the other day, I go, I need a constant system, or I just like break. And if the system's in place and it's efficient, then it works. But then like once things start to fill up or stack, and the accumulation, I get too overstimulated, and then you just get like tired thinking and talking all the time, and then it's like, oh fuck this. I can go into some real punk rock modes.
Life hack from Storm of Iron here. Need the groceries right from the paper bag.
Yeah, you don't have to put them away, just the cold ones. Like, and then you could get like weird shit like you.
Well, you guys might see me looking off camera here. There actually is a grocery bag that still has like a box of crackers in it.
Go grab it. Let's see
Should've
what's in the bag with the
should've-
ADHD moment. I'll grab a bag.
put
Every
away.
ADHD person probably has a bag around. What's in the bag? Look at this one. It's full of fucking lint rollers. What's in the bag?
That's the lint roller bag.
Fuck is that doing in the Dreamers Arcade? I don't know. Abso might have
So-
ADHD too. We'll find out. She likes bags.
Alzheimer's isn't entirely understood yet, right?
No, because there's no cure for it. They've just slowed it down, and it's your brain is like you said, it's meat and it has pathways, and if you start to disrupt those, and over time, I hate to say it, guys, your body. I was laid up this week in particular with a sore back, and your brain's the same way. If you don't exercise it, and as time goes on, and ADHD was less problematic when I was undiagnosed and younger. But then when I realized I needed to take medication to feel like I was back in my 20s, I'm like, no, things changed. Like in 20 years, whatever may be, some of those connections minimized. And now it's like, so there's an example of how age will exacerbate a mental condition. You'll get worse because your muscle of your brain ages with whatever you're dealing with, and it scares people. And if anyone's ever scared with that shit, reach out to us, because it's like, like I had friends saying like, I have a bipolar disorder and I feel like as I age I might lose it, and I'm like, I feel you, dude. Like be mindful of that and talk to people, because
it starts a whole nother conversation that I want to have a whole episode on this, about the mental health state in this country, how like it's very common for people to go a little bit nuts in their old age, because the brain it's an organic thing that does age and does lose its chemical composition over time. So like there's lack of medical care in this country. So like when it comes to mental health, especially, like if you age and you become a batshit crazy old person, you're going to be treated like an animal, essentially, is what we're looking at right now. But if we improve the mental health awareness and mental health facilities and blah blah blah, all that, that'll be less of a fear. But Alzheimer's, there's a very real fear with Alzheimer's, because I've read something recently. I was just trying to find it again here, but I can't find the source. So take this with a grain of salt, everybody. I can't find the source. But you will actually get to a point in Alzheimer's where it starts with memory, and then it starts with function, like basic tasks, and then you develop incontinence if it gets really bad. And at its worst, you will forget how to breathe. Like your brain literally doesn't know how to breathe anymore. It doesn't know how to run the heart. You basically die of Alzheimer's because your brain forgets how to run your body. and I'm like, that's
sad, because
terrifying too, because the brain's that fragile.
I've seen it. I see that not only do I help this particular couple with added things that they can no longer do, and the things that they will lose every year, as far as the tasks of the house, that it becomes easy and convenient for me to continually pick things up, but they're dropping things off at the same time. So there's less and less, and there's like a very limited cycle that they end up being in, and what can they hang on to until the end. That being said, it's hard for an 83-year-old man, even though I'd say he's very open-minded, a poetic man who taught theater and English, and he has profound thought, but to know that those things are going away. I've seen him get visibly angry about the couple jobs that he's holding on to when being questioned, like, this stove needs to go out before we leave. I've been doing this my whole life, and I know this is like one of two of the last things that he has that he's responsible for. And also being the role of the man, and like I could see him struggling in that frustration, and he's called me about very minimal things about the breaking of a door latch, and because he can't remedy that, and he can't put the pieces together, and he'll be like, I saved this and I did this, and then he'll be like, and I don't know why I'm out of breath, and I'll be like, it's okay, I'll pop over, we'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
I alleviate a lot of that, is alleviating this guy's anxiety. If something happens, like, I'm saying I'm on the job is one of the best things I think that they hire me for, to help them get through this. And like you said, like, forgetting to breathe, like I'll hear this stuff where it's like, I don't understand why I've gotten to this point. And it's like, yeah, you clicked into something that you have really no control over. You want to be responsible for. You need to know it gets done. The anxiety's tough, but then, like, yeah, are you having an anxiety attack, or are you just forgetting to breathe because you're so overwhelmed by going outside of the stimulus circle of what he's normally used to every day?
Well, even what you're
Yeah.
used to every day will change. I've seen, like, the main reason why I'm bringing up Alzheimer's though isn't to bum everybody out. The main reason I'm bringing up
Yeah,
Alzheimer's,
my friends are still alive and they still remember me, and we
yeah,
had fun.
the main reason that I'm bringing up Alzheimer's is because I'm trying to, like, drive home for both our viewers and both you and I that the human mind isn't a solid, finite construct. Like, it is an organic, ever changing, like, microcosm of billions of nerve endings, and any small thing that happened, like, you could fall and crack your head against a door frame, and now you have a Spanish accent,
Didn't
right?
they find
That shit
out?
happens, you know.
Didn't they find out about certain cognitive abilities because there was a guy who took like a steel rod into his actual head and survived, and then
Yeah,
after that experience, he was different. He was like angry or something. It
that
cha-
happens.
it
I've heard
changed.
cases that were sorry. I've heard cases that were similar to that.
I think that was like a definitive moment where they were like, oh, old Bob over here was like kind of a nice guy, and then he got in this accident and it hit his brain up, where we know, like, that's where you think, and now he's kind of a dick. Like what
Yeah.
happened? And it made people think, like, it was just it's still so hard to evaluate the internal,
Him.
and that's what I yeah, there you go.
Thank
And
you,
that's
Storm. Phineas
thank
P.
you.
Gage,
Yeah.
1823 to 1860, was an American railroad construction foreman, remembered for his improbable survival of an accident in which a large iron rod was driven completely through his head, destroying much of his brain's left frontal lobe. And for that, injuries reported effects on his personality and behavior over the remaining 12 years of his life. Effects sufficiently profound that friends saw him.
And
That's fascinating.
and
Destroying
just
much of
to
his brain.
yeah, and just a side note, I'm not going to get too far into this because it's like maybe Abso wants to come on and talk about this. But Abso, as a child, had brain surgery when she was 13 years old. That's why Abso exists. Medical science. It's amazing.
Yep.
You know, like, she was on a path to the end, but they caught something. She was having seizures, and they caught it, and they were able to operate in the front of her brain and take out a chunk the size of a golf ball. And I've seen the x-rays, and I'm like, how is this woman so smart, this, that? But then I see things like organization and stuff. That's why I'm like, I wonder if my wife has ADHD too. But, like, you know, you try to figure it out. But you know, that's wild, dude, because a
Yeah.
lot of the organization is up here, and it can shift to other parts.
Do you think
But
that maybe she might have been a different person if, say that wasn't fatal and she didn't receive the surgery, and then
yeah, if it hadn't
she
been
developed
altered,
normally?
yeah.
Would she have been a different person?
Yeah, well, I
That's
mean, the trouble is the seizures. Like, what was she? She was, I mean, Piaget If you don't know my boy Piaget, he made these child psychology scales, and
Yeah.
he broke down how people develop. So at the end of Piaget's cycle, it would be about when she had brain surgery. So she's going to go through like 4 rotations. So
Yeah.
she'd be who she'd matured to be. It's a weird thing to try to figure out. It's obviously altered, but you've already gone through your development cycles. You can't compare home movies from when she was a kid, when she was 5, and be like, yeah, she was different back then because she went through developmental brain cycles. So I don't know. That's like we were saying earlier with Alzheimer's, dream science, anything that's I would say more conceptual and not physical meat. We don't have the technology to really work on this end of it, and we'll get there. I think the computer is the answer. I think the computer is a way to either store like altered carbon style your stuff into a hard drive and kind of give you a refresh, do a software cleanup, versus the
That's
ADHD
what
people.
sleep is supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, like all that kind of stuff. So um, I think technology is going to help define some of this stuff because it is the brain of the physical world that we've created, but it is able to move in a way that might be able to map things. It should be able
So,
to map things in a way that we can actually see it,
but it's
be like Alzheimer's.
it's so sophisticated though, because like what you were just talking about kind of reminded me that I don't remember my dreams.
Never.
I had such a traumatic dream when I was in my early teens that my brain said no, no more. We're not even letting you remember this shit anymore.
Wow.
And it protects me every night like from my dreams. And apparently I was at my significant other's house this past weekend, and apparently I was having a nightmare. I woke up and I was just like, woke up in the morning, and she woke up and we're talking. She's like, "You were having a nightmare last night." And I'm like, "Was I? I don't know. I don't remember that."
Did you
Like
guys eat late?
we haven't actually, both her and I are on this fasting, this intermittent fasting thing where we don't eat before 10 and we don't eat after 7.
Write that down.
And it's great. So far I
Don't
felt lighter. I felt more like,
eat before 10 a.m.
yeah,
and after
after
7
7.
p.m.
Yeah.
or you turn into a fucking gremlin. I'm with that, dude.
Well, yeah, you kind of like, you just get, I feel bloated and tired if I don't adhere to that. Um
I do
it,
intermittent fasting and stuff like that. I don't know.
yeah.
That's probably the time I don't eat.
But I think our brain has a capacity to protect us from certain stimulus. And there are some dreams I remember. There are a handful of dreams that I've sort of taken a spiritual approach to it, where if I remember a dream, that one must have meant something. That my brain's like, wait, he needs to know this one. My brain's like, hold on, here, give him that one. And then
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know what the dream about the pirate ship had anything to do with meaning, but it was there. Um,
Sometimes it's just like you said, memory is different things. It's working, it's sensory, it's short, it's long. What does it derive something from? Abso just was saying something the other day. Oh, I was having a dream about this, and I was like, oh, well, we were watching this. Oh, the rage. She's like, I was dreaming last night. I was in a war zone, and
work.
I was like, well, you heard 3 air raids before you went to bed. She goes, oh, I didn't think of that because the
Yeah.
raids have the air raid, and it's yeah, so it's like right before bed, and it's
That's
sometimes it's that simple.
what's fascinating about that to me is that I can't even influence my dreams in that way.
But that's because you're
Broken.
not as smart.
Whoa.
No, oh yeah, no.
That's
That
mean.
somebody
So
can't
you wanna
lucid dream.
you wanna
Somebody
talk about
can't
trauma?
lucid dream.
That was my trigger growing up. That was my, like, if someone called me dumb, I would get like so angry when I was a kid. I'd be like, I'm not dumb. that became a trigger. So that's actually probably why I became the intellectual person that I am now, is because I was like, never gonna be dumb again. I refuse.
Trivia off with the Viking. Is
All right,
he dumb?
ready, go.
What was Andy Warhol significantly saying about people in society that came to fruition and represents our world today? Everybody has what? Every human being's gonna have their what? 15 minutes of fame, baby.
Oh, it's him? That was him?
Pretty much.
I know the prevalence
idea
of that concept.
The idea of the individual and the celebrity and commodification and branding all coming together and like equalizing, but also highlighting that nature of people. Like people are like think of the stuff that's going on, the serial killer time, like the nobodies,
Yeah.
the person becoming big, and like then reality TV. Like how many people do we know that we knew for no reason, you know? And it's like they just, you know what I'm saying? He knew. He predicted a lot. Artists have a tendency to predict a lot of things about the future because they're hyper fixating on all this shit that nobody cares about. But in 50 years,
I want another question though.
What? Another question?
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm here for the lurk. Give Space Viking a trivia question. He wants to prove to us that he's smart. Give him some music questions. He knows a lot about classical music.
I don't know anything about music.
How does Baroque music sound versus classical?
I think Baroque music is the resurgence of more freedom in music, whereas before it was an aristocratic. It was an aristocratic sort of thing. It was like a status symbol. Like if you were a musician and you got to play on a stage or the piano, it was like you were like top dog. It was like similar to painters at the time. Like you were like a high up, like nobleman if you got to play music. Baroque was like when it got back to the people. That was when like the people finally started being allowed to experiment, and like more and more people were getting more and more educated.
Okay, so now I'm going to answer, and we're going to see if I'm right too, because Abso would know this for sure.
Yeah.
Baroque, I thought, was the more complicated version of classical, where if you listen to Baroque, think of the theme song to the video game Gauntlet. There's your standard Baroque, your toccata and fugue, that do 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 do, but that's slow. But it gets into this undulation, right? Like a wave.
When did we get? That's okay. Now you're getting into the Dig Dug theme.
No, that's let's go. So like basically,
oh man,
Dig Dug, right, was written in the style of Baroque. No, Baroque music was more compulated. Created compilation.
Computational. Computationlated.
It was the higher art form. It was you weren't gonna dance to that shit because it was like, you know, like, well, that's I think that's classical. Anyway, it was just all over the fucking place. And then all of a sudden these kings came out and they're like, we want to party. We want to party. Nobody wants to dance to fucking that weird drum and bass shit. Nobody knows how to move to that dubstep. Let's put on that top 40 shit. Let's put on that top 40 shit. Let's simplify this to a simple chord structure. You
don't know how to move to that dubstep?
When you can't do the pizza when it's like you know, all over the place, but you can do the pizza, fucking take it nice and slow.
I'm gonna make a dubstep version of Do the Pizza, and I'm gonna get you to make a dance to it.
Everyone can dance. Absolutely, like God, totally lurking and can't hear us, so this is gonna be funny in post.
Oh my God, guys! Holy shit! Wait, hold up! Wait, it's time.
Time for what, man?
Breath of fresh air.
Take a moment and
fresh air.
Here we are in the breath of fresh air.
So Baroque's like
take a deep breath.
Like synthwave.
Take a deep breath with me.
Working sensory short and long. We don't have any memory anymore. It's gone.
I actually mean it. Take a deep breath.
I have indigestion.
That doesn't have anything to do with breathing, man.
Let me get
listen.
into
Listen.
I'm getting into Zen mode.
Listen.
Listen.
Listen, guys,
Posture check.
everyone, everybody,
Mic
everyone
check.
here.
Oh, I knocked the fucking
Check,
camera
one,
down.
two.
Check out the melody.
If you're not sleeping good and your memory is broken and you don't can't remember anything, you don't know shit about fuck, man. What you gotta do is take a
You
deep
don't know
breath.
shit about fuck. Take a deep breath.
So your brain is operated on a complex set of proteins, but the main fuel is oxygen. You want your memory to work better? You gotta take a deep breath.
And we're not talking about breathing in that 420 herb all the time either, because that'll affect your short-term memory too.
It can.
You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful.
The jury's out on THC. Comes to what it does to the brain. You know why? Because they won't let you research it because it's still federally controlled.
Ad. We got an ad from Gatorade Light right now. I do drink those during the summertime. They're a little too expensive for what they are.
CP,
like
quit.
$2.99 for a drink.
Don't announce the ad.
I was making bank.
Don't talk about what the ad is saying.
So I'd say if you like those, maybe get an orange.
God damn it, CP.
This is a federal credit union. I actually do Seaport Credit Union. That's my team.
What are you?
Fuck a big bank. All right, we're back, everybody, in the breath of fresh air. That's just, I'm going to give commentary over the ads.
No, well, the thing is,
now in the VOD, you can go back and you won't see the ad.
I am putting this on YouTube, CP. We could just keep talking through the ads.
Yeah, but then you could just cut the ad out. It'll make more editing time and annoying for you. But you could have this clip where I do an ad read and we could maybe pitch it around. Like,
well, eventually, oh yeah, that's true. We could do that.
This is how this guy ad reads. Look at this. I like this. This is all right. Get the orange one.
You know what will be funny though is if we start getting ad reads for things that we didn't get sent samples for, and it's like this is probably good. I don't know. Let's try it. You should buy it and try it and see. And you know what? Get back to us.
Man, we're just fucking. We're drones anyway in this goddamn hive because I'm telling you. we were talking about a spoon being stolen from a Dairy Queen, and next thing I know, 32 and I are being like, yeah, Magic Spoon, we've never had you if you want to sponsor us. It's like, what the fuck was that? Oh, he's gonna work out. But what was that? I'm promoting something I've never had because I've heard it so many times in other podcasts, and then you learn it's the format. Like it's an indirect thing that's affecting my memory. I need a breath of fresh air. I need to get this shit out. Oh, let's purge it out. Breath of fresh air. Purge
it out.
Make sure you're getting those breaths in while you're doing those weights. I'm just gonna do a push it away.
You know what your brain is, CP?
That feels good on the back.
I don't know.
Do
you want to know
a conductor.
What is brain? I'm typing in what is brain into the search bar. What is Brian? No, what is brain?
My brain. Want me to tell you what it is?
Welcome in, Burning Monkey. What is brain?
What is brain, Burning Monkey?
What is brain? People ask. How would you describe your brain? Oh.
He's a half-ass, half-stupid, not taken serious high school flunky. Probably could have fallen off the wagon many times and became a junkie. How did he end up so smart at 43? Outliving his idols. Look at this guy, it's me. Ooh, I'm older than John Candy. Wait, okay, so that gets into a whole thing. But, yeah, that's your brain. That's my memories, dude. I remember things. How much do you remember all at once?
Know what the human brain is?
What is it?
You ready? The human brain is the command center for the human nervous system. It receives signals from the body's sensory organs and outputs information to the muscles. Human brain has the same basic structure as other mammal brains, but is larger in relation to body size than any other brains. So,
that sounds a lot like an engine.
The brain integrates sensory information and directs motor responses in higher vertebrates, and also the center of learning.
Motor responses. Motor. Engine. Central operating system. Brain.
Yes.
Well, maybe we've been building
It's a computer.
contraptions our whole life that are little brains. They were simple little brains, and they did
So,
a task. They moved their arm, and they went bash, and then they started to learn to think. Now, what do you think?
so the brain is composed of 40% gray and 60% white matter. The gray matter is made up of about 100 billion neurons that gather and transmit signals, while the white matter is made up of dendrites and axons that neurons use to transmit signals. The white matter is essentially the connections between
We even alive right now.
neurons. So you're like we're relying pretty heavily on this thing that
Yeah,
is or just organic matter, right?
it blows my mind. It's like packed with water, sloshing around. Excuse me.
There is a lot of sloshing. Like that's why concussions are a thing because it sloshes so much that if you impact your skull too hard, it'll slam against the inside of your skull.
Oh man.
The reason I'm like hearing the breath of fresh air, I want to sort of like treat it as a humbling thing of like don't stress it. Literally, don't stress your brain. Don't let yourself be stressed. Don't allow stress to creep in because that's what actually damages your brain the most is stress. There's a chemical imbalance that happens from stress. There's a chemical called cortisol that, if built up too much, will damage your brain over time. You literally, if you experience childhood trauma, you literally got brain damage from your childhood trauma.
Yep.
That's not.
That's unfortunate.
That's not. That's not to say that like if you had childhood trauma that you're brain damaged. That just means that there was so much stress on your brain that it does just it inherently damages your brain. And that means that if you had a traumatic childhood or a traumatic upbringing or you had a traumatic moment in your life and you're looking around at people around you and you feel like you're falling behind, it's not your fault. For fuck's sake, you're
True.
the mechanism that runs your entire life was injured by stupid people in your past. And now you have to deal. Now that's the consequence of those people doing that to you. Now, is this a reason to lash out at people? No. It's a reason to take a deep breath and just realize that it might take you a little longer to get to where those people are. But that doesn't make you any more beautiful, or
Also,
it doesn't
it
make
all
you
has
any more beautiful of a creature, or it doesn't make
exactly.
you any less. I mean, of a beautiful creature than human existence is.
Absolutely, man.
This is your breath of fresh air. Just like here, take it in. Be like, let's just realize that this complex machine that allows us to remember all of our favorite things
And if you're
and
having
to
a
re-experience
realization,
shit.
if you're having these realizations too, that things are, um, things are tough as you struggle through them. And like you said, like Viking was saying, don't try to lash out and get angry because it is frustrating to also know that you're a product of a culture, and a culture that in some ways does a disservice when you're fighting against things constantly accumulating in your head, to be always putting out information and the amount that we have on a regular basis and what has been sold, marketed to us, is part of our identity. And I find that incredibly conflicting and confusing because I'm aligning with a societal culture and a norm, but I'm inherently finding things that I don't connect with anymore and want to move away from in
Find new
my
things to connect with,
discovery.
though.
Yeah, like things seem kind of like a little bit more like obvious, where it's like, oh, this is what I value. This is what I care about. If I like I don't want to be
So,
around just inanimate stuff,
a word
imagining.
that
I want to be around living and plants and
my significant other uses a word that I've been like really loving that goes exactly with what you're saying. Like it does where you're at in life, like no more comparing. We're just gonna align. We're gonna align with what what speaks to us. We're going to find what aligns with us and our mission. It's no longer about comparing to others.
Yeah, because that movement and that alignment has become disrupted by perceptions of larger things that you see through screens of like a reality that you don't have, whether that's fantastic or just idealized in the way that I could have more, I could have bigger, and I could have better. But there's always bigger and better despite your financial situation, and embracing the true reality and being like, well, I don't get to do this and I don't get to do that. Well, why don't I get to do that? And what has actually served me by not doing that, and frame the way I think now that is important for me in my position to reach out to other people in my position and connect with, because this is it, man. This is the experience of life, and we're living the character we are, and feel the way it's okay to feel the way that you feel, and connect with people that feel that way, and have your own little slice of the experience, because it's a game that goes quick, and I'll say don't spend forever getting ready for it. In the words of the great Kevin McAllister from Home Alone, use those fucking skates before they get too big for you, or you get too big for them. That's not the direct quote, but it's something like that. It was he might
I
not
had
have
to.
swore he might not have swore in a church to the old man. Like, I didn't use those fucking skates, man. They outgrew them. Fuck. I don't think that was the line. I think the movie was rated
Yeah.
PG. I don't think Macaulay Culkin said the word fuck until the movie The Good Son, where he told Elijah Wood, "Don't fuck with me."
I
I think
thought he did. He didn't say it in Home Alone.
no, I think he said that later to Elijah Wood when they were competing for a role of the Hobbit, and no, I mean the Lord of the Rings. Elijah, don't fuck with me. Yeah, I heard that before,
What?
Macaulay.
I don't-
Now your brothers and sisters, and they're bypassing you. Mac attack is over.
What are
You
you
don't know the
talking about?
Elijah Wood, Macaulay
CP, how is this
It's just
connected to what we were saying, man?
it's just a bit in the breath of fresh air. We're having fun.
No, we are. I'm just saying, like, I was just wondering if that, if there was
No,
something else there.
it connects in a weird, tangential, humorous way about Macaulay Culkin and swearing during Home Alone. I think I was finished with my thought, and I would have a little reprieve, a little laughter, and
Oh yeah, I wasn't trying to throw you off. I just meant
oh,
like,
you just threw me way off. No, I'm not having. I'm not trying to have an argument. I'm just trying to talk like a robot, like Agent Smith. Like, what are my thoughts and feelings on the matter? I just wanna rock. I'm starting to feel like
I know
this is
my,
the end. It's the performance. The performance in me is starting to wind up.
I know my coffee's kicking in because I'm getting like relaxed.
All right.
My brain always goes like, woo, sleepy time.
Actually, it's actually getting quite beautiful out. I've got the shade like half pulled down. Check this out, guys. Since we're coming to an end.
I'm gonna pretend I'm gonna pretend that the outside world doesn't exist
No,
today.
I love nature, man. It's beautiful. I like to go out there and meander around, and talk to myself and tell myself little stories. Neighbors come by and they're like, "This guy, what a woo." No, I go hide out back. There's a neighbor. Must venture into the forest. See what I'm saying? I'm ready to play now.
See what
So
you're saying.
how was your week, man?
My week was it was rough. I had 5 days off last week,
Oh yeah, that's right.
and that threw me off because my job is extremely it's physically demanding in a sense that I have to sort of keep things in my mind sort of in check. So it ends up like getting into my body, and I end up like having a lot of like tenseness and stress like put into my body so that I can remain more level-headed in my conversations with clients and stuff like that. And it's almost convention season.
That's
Like
right.
our next Rise in Mind is probably going to be talking about conventions, nerdy shit, just because it's going to be on our mind. and then immediately after Rise and Mind, we have to drive. I have to drive right immediately.
Rise and drive. I might be actually driving during the Rise in Mind.
Oh, if you are, then we don't have to do it if you can't. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot.
We might be able to like do a
Rise and drive.
A Rise and Drive in the car thing with Abso. I know we're gonna be taking off early to set up because she has a meeting like when the con starts. So I'll be solo. Well, I'll be with you, man. But
I don't know where I am on the floor.
Yeah, that's a typical ADHD thing. She gave me the map. I almost fucking looked at this one, dude. I almost looked at it, but she tells me where we are, and we're in a really good spot. You're like a fucking end cap, dude. We're gonna light you up, dude.
I feel like I'm in a good spot too for the end cap, but I don't like. I'm a little. Oh man, it's funny how since we're talking about memory and cognitive function, right? I never know if I'm ready. Like the first convention of the season, I'm always like, do I have the stuff?
Don't worry.
Do I have this? Am I gonna do thing? Is thing gonna happen? Good.
Don't worry. I wrote it down for us. It's over here on the wall.
Wrote it down for me.
Getting ready for the end of the world won't help us if it's already ended. Stop getting ready, dude. Do. There we go.
I'm gonna go.
I'm never fucking ready.
I'm gonna stop getting ready and I'm gonna go do.
I'm gonna make some like cool shit this week, like all fucking thrown together, and people are gonna be like, "Ooh, that's fun!" And I'll have some of my old shit, and I'll get to hang out with my friends, and then I'll be like, "This is what I got to probably get my shit together." Maybe by August I'll have a really monumental show, but yeah, this is the warm up. This is gonna be the breaking ground of the year, right? Well,
Well, CP.
So, I'm trying not to stress too much over it because, like most people in our case, just skating in to fucking last minute. That's probably what you'll see me.
Tell me a story.
There once was
I meant like a story of when your brain surprised you of like with a memory, like a memory that you thought that you would never remember again. Like it just slammed you, like it slam dunked you into a memory from, say, it was a smell you smelled, or it was like where you like the place you were, and you were like, oh shit, I did this thing when I was a kid. And for me, it was I was in my mom's garage. Here's an example while you ponder that. I was in my mom's garage, and I have this axe head that I turned into like an actual like a battle axe. It was a part of a like stage prop axe, and the handle was flimsy as hell, but I used it as a real axe, and eventually it just broke. Like I used to like throw it at trees and swing it around, and that was my exercise when I was a teenager. I used to go out and swing it like a weapon around because I thought it was more fun than going to the gym, or that was more interesting than the other ways to exercise.
Yeah, we actually split wood. Like my dad would be like, yeah, go out there and split the wood. And then like I go out to my friend's house, and it became a fucking culture. It was like when the kids come over, no matter what house, they split the wood. And then it's like half the weekend I'm just splitting wood with my friends, like
it's actually
their house and my house.
It's actually a little wholesome though. Bunch of kids coming over and splitting wood and getting ready for the staying warm in the winter.
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of,
it was cool.
The feeling is wholesome, but it was
it was the 80s. Well, it's probably closer to the 90s, and it's like we were all fucking neon and arcades and stuff, and it was like splitting wood. I hate that. I'm never gonna want to do that again. And now it's like one of the most romantic things in my life. I say,
I can't.
You want?
I can't feel like I'm fighting Ridley if I'm splitting wood.
Yeah, that's true. But you can be a pioneer.
I did used to like. I still do this to this day. I actually was doing it on the elliptical the other night. Whenever it's something physically demanding, I always imagine myself doing something more interesting. You know what the elliptical feels like?
What?
A very tactile way to control a giant battle mech.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I always imagine I'm in some kind of mechanical suit, because it does kind of feel like you're lacking the tactile you lack the feeling of your leg hitting the
Back it up.
ground.
Back
And I feel like that's what it would feel like if you were piloting a mech. You wouldn't actually
Yeah.
feel the impact of your feet hitting the ground because it's the mech's feet hitting the ground. You'd feel a little bit like you were floating, but you were still in control. So I'm always like, yeah, I'm in a mech, I'm in a battle, and like I picture like the bullets whizzing by me, and then before I know it, the 20 minutes is over, and I'm sweating, and I'm like, oh shit, that was awesome.
They could make that on a pivot with a VR headset, dude. Where the thing had a little bit of a pivot.
Well, that's
that
the
you could
thing
feel,
about.
and you put VR on. People would work out for a really fucking long time if they were walking in a mech game. Like,
Look,
just saying, with shooters.
You actually
in the
brought up one of
buttons.
my major issues with VR. Is that I did that in my brain though. I already did the VR in my brain. I made that, it felt like it, and I lost track of time.
But it's exciting to incorporate the resistance, is what I'm saying, because we've talked about. Because think about it, we've done VR, right? And like it's like floating in this non-resistive space. What if people incorporate VR with workout? Do we really do that as a culture?
We there are some new technologies being developed where they're like haptic systems. The thing with haptic though is that you don't get weight. Like you can't hold a virtual object and then feel the weight of the object. You just feel you what the haptic gloves do is they allow you to feel like that you're holding something.
That's why the mech would be so cool, because you said it was like that free floating thing, and if you just had
Yeah.
some like, if they made this VR system like more just like glasses that everybody had, like their phones and their music, you could pop on
Now-
your own gear and then play a game with the compatible
Yeah.
hardware.
But since
And
we're talking about memory though, I wanna say something interesting. Like because I spent so much time on the elliptical pretending I'm piloting a mech and it was so vivid in my mind, when I'm 80 years old and I'm developing Alzheimer's, am I going to, I'm not trying to bum you out because I know it's a breath of fresh air, but like this is still an interesting thing to think about. What if I'm like developing a little bit of dementia and I talk to my grandkids like, back in the cyber war of 2023, I piloted a mech.
I don't think we won't figure out like a cure for Alzheimer's, like at some point and within the next time, like we're getting older. So
I feel like these diseases. Sorry, just side thought. I feel like these diseases are going to evolve into different ones. I feel like Alzheimer's is going to be cured, right? And then we're going to have some VR related disease.
Well, and that's what I was thinking. Like there could be an identity issue with avatars that we didn't know how to facilitate during a span of, like, say, uniquely to a generation like us. So it's like, oh, grandpa's got like post-traumatic avatar displacement. Like and
we
then
have
it was just a thing they didn't know, but now they kind of cure. You know what I'm saying?
have body dysmorphia already. What if we what if we had identity dysmorphia?
Yeah.
What if it was like we no longer view ourselves as ourselves? So like spending time in VR, we feel more like ourselves than we do when we're in our daily life. Like you have to take the VR stuff off to go to the bathroom, and then you have this weird psychotic breakdown because you spent like a couple minutes outside of the VR. Like that could be a very real thing that might happen. Like there's in the Cyberpunk 2077 universe, there's something called cyberpsychosis that comes from wearing cybernetic prosthetics for too long, and your brain basically starts to break down. It almost becomes like you get addicted to your own power, but then at the same time, like your brain can't handle the upgrades, and then the person keeps upgrading themselves until they basically go insane. But now you have this extremely powerful insane person because they have all these upgrades, but the upgrades made them crazy.
It's drugs.
It's an allegory for drugs, yeah.
Yeah.
But imagine
At
someone
least the
on
ones that are heavy, the heavy ones. That's how they work.
Imagine someone on PCP with robotic arms that can like crush steel.
Yeah.
That's like what they were talking about. But like the thing with the VR, that's interesting. That's something that's very real. That could very well happen. We already have versions of that from people our age growing up with video games. We already have people who can't function without their make-believe world. They literally have they. Well, I want to say literally, but at the same time, I want to say that maybe it's more rare than I'm making it out to be. But I've known a lot of people that it seems like if they don't have their make-believe world to go escape into, then they will literally. I keep using that word. I'm sorry.
Literally?
Yeah, they will go to a place where they are no longer comfortable. Like they're not comfortable living in the real world. We already have that happening, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's okay. Like we don't have enough research into it. We don't have enough people working on this to say for sure that the make-believe world is an okay place to stay in for extended periods of time.
Moratorium over here. He says, let's shut it down. We gotta shut it down. And
Well, I don't want to shut it down, but I want the politicians and the people with money to pay attention enough to put money into the research so that we have a yes or no answer. Like, I myself am an avid gamer, and I do go into these make-believe worlds, and some of the memories that I made, like since we're on the subject of memory today, some of the memories that I've made are all virtual, and I look back and I actually have a feeling of disgust of I spent so much time in that.
No,
I spent
but
so
did
much
you
time. Well, here's the thing.
Like it?
Let me explain. The disgust, right? The disgust comes from the idea that I spent all this time in a virtual world. I have all this information and I have all this knowledge about a subject, but I don't know if any of that knowledge or any of those experiences were actually valid to someone I'm talking to who went rock climbing for an entire summer in Nevada or something, right? I spent an entire summer in World of Warcraft, and that feels like I spent quality time, but I didn't gain anything. I didn't learn how to rock climb. I didn't actually learn how to swing a sword. I didn't learn how to fight dragons. I learned how to press certain keys on a keyboard to make my character do stuff. And that is a skill. Don't get me wrong, but I can't take that particular. There were some skills that I gained from that game that I can take to the real world. But
hey,
if I had the chance to go back and change it, I would go to my teenage self and be like, touch grass. Like, what the hell are you doing? Because yeah, go ahead.
I just gotta say, like, don't you dare fucking clip this.
What? It's not up to me what gets clipped.
This guy, Dreamers Arcade, CP Sketch, is far less of a gamer than Space Viking 42. Don't you dare clip that. So you have that skill. Like, if you and I watched this guy play Back 4 Blood, and he was so like fucking John Wick. It was amazing. And I'm like, I was like, I gotta get this guy to play with me because we're getting hung up on some parts, my team and I. And you were gonna be like the wild card. Never got to it, but I realized how focused you are as a gamer. And I had to do tricks. The only time I ever became a good gamer was because of Twitch and having a system of rules. I could 100% Cuphead because I played it specifically 4 hours on Tuesday and Thursday and beat everything. And it was a thing, and there was an audience, and there was a performance. And
I don't understand why I can't clip this though. It doesn't sound controversial at all.
No, I just said I said you were a better gamer.
Oh,
my ego. It's my ego.
Oh, I see.
No, I'm just kidding. Because it's just a thing that you could just definitely hold over my head.
I would never hold anything.
Space Viking
over your
42
head.
is a better gamer.
I'm not.
Feisty is the best gamer.
I'm not trying to make you feel worse, but like
No, I don't feel.
I'm not.
anything.
I'm just saying I'm not a good gamer though. That's the thing.
In contrast to me, who didn't spend the year on this and PC gaming and stuff.
Oh,
your
right.
skills are far better, and I would say you're more proficient at more games, more styles of games, play more games, probably. And I don't know if we could have this as a segment later on. A game off where I pick 10 games, you pick 10 games. They have to be through the last 40 years, and we each go against
You are
each
better
other.
at turtles than me.
Maybe
The
like
Ninja Turtle game.
we had ways that we leaned.
Some of that has to do with cognitive function as well and memory.
Yeah, like Mortal Kombat versus Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
Abso would take me out in a Dead or Alive scenario, not a Soul Calibur scenario. Soul
I mean,
Calibur's where I kind of ended
can
with the
have
3D. But get me on a Mortal Kombat,
yeah.
dude, I'm awful. But I'm cheap too, and I realized when I actually played against people who knew how to play games, like
Yeah.
real fucking hardcore, sporty competitor people that I don't connect
Did you
with in the gaming
ever
world. It's the
did
creativity.
did you ever install No Man's Sky? Because we could actually play that today for our bonus segment if you have time.
Can probably do like a run from the cloud. It would have to be through my Xbox, and we like audio only for me. I
Right.
might be able to hook up a camera if I have a little bit of a break.
Yeah, if you what you could actually do is just get, do you have a stand for your phone?
Yeah, I mean, I have lots.
So
Yeah.
if you have like a tripod for your phone, what you do is you just set up your phone camera with Discord, whichever side of your camera, which is better, your face cam or your other cam, and then you put it on yourself, and then they can put you up on the screen with Discord that way, the same way I have you right now.
What would we use for audio? The head game set, or we'd use the Discord because we may have an aligning.
You'd want it
issue.
synced with Discord. I would use Discord for audio.
Okay, and I'd probably use the headset though for our audio.
Yeah.
All right.
Whichever way you want to make it work. That's since we're still live right now, I can just say like
Bonus
sometimes
segment, guys.
yeah,
Doesn't that sound fun?
sometimes
Any
we
you guys
got
wanna
bonus
join that?
segments. For that game though, I would recommend you downloading it just
I mean, it's gonna
because of
probably take an hour, right?
it's a beautiful you won't wanna see it all pixelated. You'll wanna see it for its
Oh well, the
full
Dreamers
glory.
Arcade's kind of under some fucking some real Walmart shit here these days. I'm a Walmart fucker. I'll admit that.
Walmart.
Basically, my TV, it's a 47-inch I got during the pandemic for free,
Yeah.
and it's got like a fucking flicker in it now. It's like da 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 da. It's
Oh,
like it's got a weird shit. So I'm gonna have to get an upgrade, but so I don't even really give a fuck about the quality. And it's
I
like
gotcha.
light out now, the fucking glare. Fuck it, dude. It's gonna look like shit, brother. You know what I'm saying? But it should be fun. I'll have a laugh with that, and there's probably
Yeah.
maybe some other games if chat wants to suggest any type of space exploration, mining.
Anything that's
Hey,
sort of brain
I'd
a
like to see
brain
you.
game.
I think Dig Dug might be also on Xbox. You should show me your skills at Dig Dug.
I could. I could.
I
We already got good Dig Dug skills in Deep Rock Galactic. That was pretty good.
It's pretty fun. I like the
Yeah.
role playing, and if you like the role playing, I'm interested. And if
I
chat
do that
wants
all the
to
time too.
get into this, like, so you know Thomas Middleditch is Viking.
No. Like
You ever
Google
watch
him?
well Silicon Valley? Did you ever watch any of that on HBO?
No.
He's the main actor. Plays a real like nerdy
Canadian?
programmer.
Oh, I know him. I've seen him.
Yeah, and you've seen him in commercials. Well, he's just a regular actor guy,
Yeah.
and he's on Twitch. I haven't followed him, but he came up through my YouTube because I like to watch a lot of compilation and people editing stuff down. He's
Yeah.
created a character for Red Dead Redemption, and he creates these beautiful, like, it's almost this love story, and
Oh, he's
And
crafted a whole. See, that's what we're doing with Space Engineers, actually. Well, not a love story, but we're crafting like a huge, deep like narrative.
yeah, and so I caught that just throughout. The computers listen to us; they know what we want. It's like, hey, here's an actor role playing in Wild RP and Red Dead, and I thought about maybe even doing that, just like messing around, doing a role play, because I really have this desire to be like a character and just play it for a while, and not necessarily have to be good at a game. I'm not the sportsman. I
Dude,
want
we
gaming
could even
for the
do that
theatrics.
in we could even do that in Red Dead if you wanted. I
Or
have I
deep.
have I have
Or
Red Dead or Deep
I
Rock.
have I have the discs of Red Dead. I wonder if I still have it installed. I must, because unless it was huge and I was like, oh, you're only 2 chapters in. I hate that this is the part that I don't like. I hate that I have a hard time finding time to continue with gaming, because Red Dead, like, alone was so beautiful, and I just played a couple chapters, and now I feel like it's been so many years. It's like I need to start back over and do it again. You get kind of locked in these scenarios with certain games,
Yeah.
but then new ones are coming out on top of it in VR and all this shit, and I'm like, that's why I like the idea of the VR and the working out, because I'm like, if it would benefit, something in the physical reality, it'd be more worthwhile, instead of being like, I wasted a year at a World of Warcraft. I could have been in a mech getting fucking ripped.
That's that's actually true. I wish there was a at the time. It would have been great for me to be like, you know what? I'm gonna go raid with my friends on World of Warcraft, but I'm gonna be doing some Pilates while I'm freaking killing Ragnaros. Like, I wish I
No,
could have
that's
done that.
yeah, hindsight's a pain in the ass. Like, to know that, like, right now in between this podcast, we could, like, let's start out and do a 30-minute workout, or let's go for a quick jog, and then it's like, let's make a smoothie, now let's play a game, now let's get up and do some push-ups. Like, it makes so much sense, and it doesn't really, like, take anything, but it's just like, you gotta get into that fucking, you gotta cut that pathway, brother, because we've been doing this pathway for so long. I'm on Twitch sitting around, I'm not ripping it up, but if we started ripping it up, we'd dig that pathway. He's
Yeah.
bored with it already. He doesn't get a dopamine rush with going down that changing pathway. Let's go eat a pizza, dude. It's pizza night. Friday night pizza
Who's
party.
bored? Who's bored?
No, I saw you yawn.
I'm
'Cause it was talking-
sleepy. I told you
we
I
were
was getting
talking about-
relaxed from
we
the
were talking
coffee.
about cutting the new pathway made you
We're-
tired. I caught you in real time,
we're on
buddy.
we're on the like we're on the last 2 minutes of our show here, my guy.
He's like, oh, I want to play the video game.
I actually would love to play Space Engineers with you, though. Like, to be honest, I wish that the game had better support for it doesn't have very good support for Xbox. Like, you can't play with people on a server from Xbox. Like, I don't think we would even be able to connect to each other.
Yeah, I want to play something where we can just play a character.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, well, I'll see how long it takes to download.
You can do that in No Man's Sky. You can.
Do that in Dig Dug too.
Yeah.
In Dig Dug. Start having a narrative while you're going through the tunnels.
We already decided what the narrative of Dig Dug was, though.
I think I'm going down for the deep dive here. I know it's close to lunch, and I'm probably gonna cut into my.
So Dig Dug is a deep space miner who was left on the planet. They thought he was dead, but he wasn't. He's left there. Now he's got to survive.
Dun, 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 dun. What's that song?
And he's an ex-military, so he's got all this training that he uses to like turn his mining equipment into weapons to fight these giant dragon monsters and these weird these dudes that are like deformed goggles. I don't know what the other dudes even are. Those enemies. I don't know what the allegory for them would be in real life. Alrighty.
The puka shows up, right? And he's like, and 4 days after his wife died.
What even are you?
4 days after his wife died.
Whose
You
wife?
steal his car. You kill his fucking dog.
What? What are you referencing?
You, you woke up Dig Dug.
So, final thoughts, CP.
Baba Yaga.
Final thoughts
The
on
boogeyman.
memory and the fragility of the human mind. What are your final thoughts, sir?
A lot of times I feel like I need to insert another coin to continue, and I just end up spamming the button and going too quickly towards game over.
That coin a cookie? Dirt coin to mouth.
I actually have some cookies, and I haven't been eating cookies lately, but last night I decided I would have 5 full-size bakery-style cookies, Reese's,
My goodness.
Pieces, chocolate chip, and I had one of each, and it was like
What is-
3 full cookies, and I was like, well, that was fucking a lot. And then a
Oh.
little bit later, I had 2 more cookies, and I felt sick all morning. So no cookies. I got a cookie. You can
Hey.
stick it up, yeah.
My final thought would have to be
What's that?
that we got to make the best of our health while we have it. In the event that we lose what we have, who we currently are, like that's like there's a lot of people that have issues with celebrating who they are, and it rightfully so. Like I have the same issue as well many times. Like I am who I am, and I've crafted whoever this is over the course of my 34 years of life.
Like that I crafted this Crofton.
And in an instant, in a car accident, I could bang my head against the dashboard and lose all of it.
You know, speaking just to that, I know it's a final thought, but I've woken up upside down in cars and been like, not a scratch. And I'm like, what? How did this happen? But at the same time, not everybody gets that. People simply things happen and they're just gone. And don't take it for granted. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's very fragile. Take care of yourselves. Trying to take care of you, us, everyone. Connect. Let's make this all good. And remember, I'll remember your stories if you remember mine. We'll make a deal. Make a deal.
What a beautiful, that's actually a beautiful thing to end on, CP. I appreciate that. We are this has been Rise in Mind with CP Sketch
Have a good day, everyone.
and Space Viking